If she suddenly crosses your mind at strange hours, understand this. There's a reason you're already living in hers. And if you've felt a quiet shift in her energy, something subtle but undeniable, it's because a decision is forming beneath her silence. Listen carefully. Most men think attraction is loud. They expect obvious signs, dramatic gestures, clear confessions. But female psychology rarely announces itself. It moves in patterns. It leaks through behavior long before it ever reaches words. And when a woman can't stop thinking about a man, she doesn't chase him the way men chase desire. She rearranges her world around the feeling and pretends nothing has changed. Here's the truth most men never hear. When a woman is mentally invested, her attention becomes selective. She starts filtering life through the lens of you, even when she's not aware she's doing it. She notices things that remind her of you, a phrase, a song, a moment, and each time it happens, your presence gets reinforced inside her emotional memory. That's not coincidence, that's attachment forming quietly. If she's doing this one thing, checking in without needing a reason, it's not casual. It's psychological proximity. A woman doesn't reach out when she's bored nearly as often as men believe. Boredom seeks distraction, not depth. But when she reaches out to you specifically, especially with small, seemingly meaningless messages, she's not starting a conversation. She's checking the emotional temperature between you. She wants to know if the connection is still alive without risking vulnerability. Notice how her questions shift. They become less about facts and more about you, your opinions, your reactions, your inner world. That's not curiosity. That's calibration. She's measuring compatibility, imagining future emotional scenarios, and placing you into them. In her mind, you're no longer an option. You're a variable she's testing. And here's where most men sabotage themselves. They over-respond. They lean in too hard. They flood the space with reassurance. But mystery is oxygen to attraction. When you don't immediately validate her unspoken interest, something powerful happens. Her mind fills the gap. She thinks about you more, not less. She wonders. She replays interactions. She looks for meaning. Another sign you're on her mind is subtle emotional mirroring. Her tone starts matching yours. Her humor aligns with yours. Her energy syncs with your presence. This isn't conscious imitation. It's neurological bonding. Humans mirror those they feel connected to, and women do this deeply when emotional attraction is forming. She's unconsciously saying, "We are alike. We fit." Pay attention to timing. When she responds faster than she used to, when she remembers small details you mentioned weeks ago, when she brings them up unexpectedly, that's mental real estate you didn't ask for but were given. Memory follows importance. The brain doesn't store what it doesn't value. And here's the part most men misunderstand. If she pulls back slightly after showing interest, it doesn't mean she lost it. Often it means she felt it grow stronger than she's ready to admit. Women retreat when emotions feel risky. Distance becomes a way to regain control. But the thinking doesn't stop. It intensifies. If she's doing these things, you're not just on her mind. You're becoming a presence she's emotionally negotiating with. And once a woman starts negotiating internally about a man, he's already crossed a line that's hard to uncross. Here's what most men never realize. When a woman thinks about you often, it doesn't feel romantic to her at first. It feels disruptive. Her emotional system is designed to maintain balance, and your presence starts tipping that balance in ways she can't easily explain. That's why the signs are rarely dramatic. They're controlled, measured, almost hidden, because she's trying to understand why you're taking up space in her mind without permission. If she starts bringing you into her everyday life verbally, that's significant. When she casually mentions what she's doing, where she's going, or what just happened, even when there's no practical reason to tell you, she's creating continuity. She's mentally placing you beside her as life unfolds. This is how emotional closeness grows without intimacy ever being discussed. Watch how she reacts to your absence, not in words, but in energy. When you pull back slightly and she fills the gap, that's not coincidence. Silence doesn't make an uninterested woman curious. It only works on someone who already cares. If she suddenly finds reasons to reappear after you've been less available, her mind has been circling you in that quiet space. Another powerful indicator is emotional regulation. When she's on edge, overwhelmed, or stressed, and she reaches out to you, your presence has become a stabilizer. That's deep psychological territory. She associates you with calm, clarity, or grounding. And once a woman links a man to emotional safety, her attachment strengthens fast. Desire can fade, safety does not. You may notice she asks for your perspective, even on things that don't directly involve you. Decisions, dilemmas, small choices. This isn't about needing advice, it's about internal alignment. She's testing how your mind works compared to hers. She's imagining what it would feel like to move through life with your input consistently. In other words, she's rehearsing connection. And here's something subtle but critical. When a woman is thinking about you, she becomes more self-aware around you. She notices her words, her tone, her reactions. That's because your opinion has gained weight. Indifference doesn't create self-monitoring. Emotional investment does. If she teases you, challenges you, or playfully disagrees more than before, don't misread it. That's engagement, not resistance. A woman doesn't mentally spar with someone she doesn't care about. She's stimulating the connection, keeping it alive, seeing how you respond under pressure. Emotional polarity keeps her attention locked. At this stage, her attraction isn't about fantasy, it's about consistency. She's watching to see if you remain emotionally grounded, if you stay centered when she fluctuates, if you don't chase reassurance when she pulls back. Men who pass this phase without realizing it are the ones women say they can't stop thinking about, even when they don't fully understand why. What's happening inside her is a quiet internal dialogue. She's asking herself questions she won't ask you. Why does he feel different? Why do I care what he thinks? Why does his absence feel noticeable? Those questions don't come from surface-level interest. They come from emotional imprinting. And once a man becomes an emotional imprint, he doesn't disappear easily. Even if circumstances change, even if timing isn't perfect, even if she tries to rationalize it away, the mind resists letting go of what feels meaningful. If she's doing these things, understand this. You're not competing with other men anymore. You're competing with her own sense of control. And that's a battle attraction almost always wins. Here's a truth most men will never hear, and it's uncomfortable. When a woman is thinking about you, her behavior often contradicts her words. She might act distant. She might tease or challenge you. She might even seem annoyed at times. That's not because she's uninterested. It's because her mind is wrestling with feelings she can't fully admit to herself. Female psychology doesn't always express itself directly. It often works in paradox. One of the clearest signs you're on her mind is subtle preparation. Notice how she adapts her routines, conversations, or even moods around you. She might share more of herself than usual, drop little hints about her day, or align her humor with yours. These aren't random behaviors. They're signals that she's making mental space for you, arranging pieces of her life to see where you might fit. Another sign is emotional reflection. Women often replay interactions internally, analyzing your words, gestures, even silences. If she's doing this, she's not overthinking in a trivial way. She's evaluating, imagining, and prioritizing. Your presence occupies a kind of mental real estate, reserved only for those she considers significant. That mental rehearsal is a silent but powerful form of attachment. Pay attention to the small confirmations. She remembers the tiny details you mentioned in passing, your favorite food, a story from your childhood, an offhand comment about a hobby. These aren't casual recollections. They're evidence that you matter. Memory follows emotional relevance, not convenience. The more she recalls, the more your presence embeds itself into her internal world. You might notice an increase in intentional or coincidental encounters. She happens to be where you are, notices patterns in your schedule, or times messages to land at precise moments. Timing matters psychologically. These moments aren't necessarily conscious. They're the result of a mind already preoccupied with you. Subtle, consistent patterns are far more telling than overt gestures. Then there's the matter of emotional energy. When she interacts with you, there's a distinctive warmth, even in casual exchanges. The tone of her messages, her choice of words, the pauses and pauses to think, they all indicate that she's engaged emotionally. Women who aren't thinking about a man don't exhibit this kind of nuanced emotional calibration. Their communication is functional, transactional, or indifferent. One of the most revealing behaviors is mental mirroring. She starts reflecting your moods, language, or even body language when you meet. It's not mimicry, it's alignment. Mirroring happens naturally when a woman feels psychologically connected. Her mind is adjusting subconsciously to maintain a sense of harmony with yours. It's a deep-level, pre-verbal acknowledgement of emotional investment. Watch how she handles absence. When you don't reply immediately or are busy, does she check in subtly? Does she comment on small details she knows will reach you? This is the brain working overtime in your absence, keeping you in focus. A woman's attention is selective. She doesn't expend it on what she's indifferent to. Finally, pay attention to the push-pull. It's a dance designed by the brain to maintain control while processing feelings. She may pull back to assess your reactions, but that distance only magnifies your presence in her thoughts. Emotional tension isn't accidental. It's a natural consequence of interest combined with self-protection. If she's showing these signs, you're not just on her mind. You've become part of her internal world, a presence she can't ignore, and a thought that occupies her even when she's trying not to. Understanding this is the key to navigating attraction on a level most men never reach. Now, let's talk about the invisible ways a woman signals you've captured her mind completely. It's rarely loud, flashy, or obvious. It's quiet, persistent, and emotionally strategic. When she's thinking about you more than she realizes, her actions often operate beneath the surface of awareness, almost like a second mind is working quietly in your favor. One of the first signs is anticipatory behavior. She begins to anticipate your reactions, preferences, or moods without being prompted. She may suggest plans, comment on topics she knows you care about, or subtly adjust her behavior to align with what she perceives you like. This isn't manipulation, it's subconscious preparation. Her mind is rehearsing interactions with you before they even happen. You'll notice her sharing personal thoughts or experiences more readily than with others. Vulnerability is never given lightly. When she's opening up about dreams, fears, or private moments, it's because your presence has become emotionally safe enough to risk exposure. And even if she frames it casually, her brain is sending signals that she trusts you with her inner life. That's profound. Another indicator is focus on consistency. When she repeatedly reaches out, comments, or checks in, even without a reason, it shows you've become a mental priority. Women don't invest cognitive energy in someone who isn't significant. Each interaction, no matter how small, strengthens her mental connection. Subtle observation is key. She notices changes in your mood, tone, or behavior. If you're quiet, she asks why. If you're excited, she celebrates it. She's paying attention not just to what you do, but to how you do it. That's a level of engagement men often overlook because it doesn't come with direct compliments or overt flattery. Yet it's a far deeper signal of emotional presence. You may also see shifts in how she communicates. Texts become more personal, calls longer, laughter more frequent, and teasing sharper. These are signs her mind is syncing with yours, mentally mapping out a space for you in her emotional ecosystem. Mirroring your energy creates subtle alignment, an unspoken bond that pulls her attention naturally toward you. Even silence can be revealing. If she retreats slightly, doesn't respond immediately, or seems distant, it doesn't always mean disinterest. Often, it's her mind recalibrating, processing growing feelings she's not ready to fully express. The more a woman thinks about a man, the more she cycles through anticipation, evaluation, and restraint, all in her head. Physical attention may follow mental focus. If you notice her remembering details about your appearance, posture, or even scent preferences, that's not casual observation, that's emotional imprinting. Her brain is cataloguing sensory experiences linked to you, which strengthens mental presence and emotional resonance. And finally, observe how she reacts to your social world. She notices your friends, comments subtly on your interactions, and gauges your social energy. That's because someone occupying her mental space doesn't exist in isolation. They influence her perception of the world around them. If she's doing these things, you've crossed into a rare psychological territory. You're not just a fleeting thought. You're becoming a consistent element in her inner life, a variable she can't stop evaluating, imagining, and emotionally negotiating with. That's the quiet power of being mentally significant to a woman. Here's the final truth, the one most men never grasp. Once a woman has mentally anchored you, her thoughts about you are relentless, even when she tries to hide them. She may act casual, detached, or playful, but her brain is constantly running scenarios, imagining interactions, and testing emotional outcomes with you at the center. This isn't conscious daydreaming. It's subconscious evaluation, a deep mental rehearsal that signals significance. Notice how she references past moments you shared, even tiny ones, in ways that seem natural. A passing joke, a detail from a previous conversation, or a habit you mentioned weeks ago. These are markers of attention. She's cataloguing experiences that connect her to you. The brain does this for things it values, for people it can't stop noticing. Another subtle clue is her reaction to your absence. If she notices when you're not around, asks about you indirectly, or shows curiosity about your day, that's a strong indicator of mental focus. Women rarely expend emotional energy on someone who doesn't occupy a meaningful part of their internal world. Attention is selective. Once she's thinking about you consistently, absence magnifies it. Emotional mirroring intensifies at this stage. She adjusts her tone, her humor, even her posture to match yours. This isn't conscious mimicry. It's her mind creating harmony with yours. By aligning emotionally, she deepens the connection without saying a word. Mirroring is the body and brain's way of saying, "You matter to me," before she ever admits it verbally. You may notice small acts of care or attention that seem random. She remembers what you like, anticipates your needs, or responds to subtle cues you didn't think anyone noticed. This is a reflection of her mind, running on parallel with yours, constantly checking alignment and reinforcing emotional significance. Silence or distance can actually amplify your presence in her thoughts. Women often pull back when feelings grow too strong too fast. This isn't rejection, it's reflection. Her mind continues evaluating you, imagining possibilities, and solidifying your importance. Absence makes the mind work harder, increasing mental focus and attachment. Playfulness, teasing, and challenge become tools to keep the connection alive. She engages in subtle emotional sparring, not to push you away, but to test the boundaries of your presence in her life. This creates tension and attraction simultaneously. A woman who doesn't think about you won't invest energy in this kind of dynamic. At this point, her mind is running scenarios about you constantly: how you think, how you act, what your life might look like together, or simply how you exist in her emotional world. Every decision, every shift in behavior is colored by the mental imprint you've left. You are now not just an option in her life, you are a constant mental companion. Here's the ultimate key. If she's doing these things, you are already occupying her thoughts more than you realize. The challenge for most men is learning to match the psychological depth she's giving without overexposing themselves. Presence, mystery, and consistency will amplify her mental focus and solidify attraction. Now, I want you to pause and reflect. Think about the last time you felt she was truly on your mind and the last time she reached out without reason. Multiply those moments by the intensity of her attention and divide it by the silence she maintains. What number do you get? Write it in the comments, and if this revealed truths you didn't notice before, like subscribe and share this video with a friend who needs to hear this.